juxtapose those two situations where you are at VCU, you change over to American. What's the atmosphere like at the two different schools? And how did you grow in that second chance, I guess I should say?
Well, VCU was tremendously diverse. It was artsy, funky, just like everybody's on their own vibe. And to this day, still like that. And why I have so much appreciation for it. You can go down there and really just find yourself. You can lose yourself too, but you can find yourself mainly. And what makes you unique. And and everybody's cool with each other. I don't know if it's down south culture, but like everybody's cool, like, and just nice and speaks and, wants to hang out and all that good stuff. But also basketball culture was tremendously different down there. They pretty much worship the men's basketball team, and that kind of trickles down a little bit to the women's basketball team. So your face is plastered everywhere and people see you on campus. It's a very different vibe. The men's team goes to the NCAA tournament every year, so it's a whole different thing. I go to American and it was culture shock. When I say PWI, I mean PWI, predominantly white institution. Yeah. It was just a really different culture. I felt really alone. I felt like, even like specific to basketball, I just felt like I couldn't relate to my teammates all the time. It was a lot to kind of handle originally and kind of wrap my head around. And then, like anything, you have to assimilate in order to survive. So I started assimilating to the culture and, kind of just worked my angle with it. But it was tough. I forget the second part of your question. What was the second part of that?
Basically, what was the difference and how did you grow within that new chance? I think you kind of answered it by saying you had to assimilate, right? You
Absolutely.
had to kind of figure out kind of your way. Now, a question just came to me after you saying that is, being a Black athlete is a very big deal, especially playing basketball, football, track, those sports.
Yep.
The
mains,
right? The main sports. I played football, right? So,
right.
The only difference for me is that I was also a wrestler. So I was in a very different culture than
I was going to say, that was probably interesting.
It still is now. I mean, there's a lot more that is happening progressively within the wrestling community now, but me growing up a wrestler was very different, very much so different. But for you, being a Black female in, a predominantly white school and area, what's that like, right? Like, what's it like for you to grow as a teenager, 20 something at this time?
When I first got to AU, it just felt like I felt lonely. It just felt lonely. I went back that year, I went back and forth to my old school. And when I could, it was like the stars aligned. It would be like, because I would only go back if the two people that I transferred with could go back as well. And so we would like pull up as a unit, be like, we're here to get lit. Hang out with y'all, get lit with y'all. I can say it now, I'm grown, so whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have like coaches on my back, like, don't say that. But yeah, it's true. Athletes, do have fun.
Yes.
But when I got to AU, it just felt lonely. I felt like I was in a breakup, like a really harsh breakup. And, it's not just romantic breakups that hurt you, but like friendships, places, things. And I just felt like I was going through it alone because the culture was completely different and my coach couldn't relate at all. And, I got to AU, and for the first time in my life, I am a minority on a basketball team, which was nuts. I was like, I've never been on predominantly white team, and that's a different culture within itself. So having to navigate so many different just instances of
code switching there, huh?
Code switching, of explaining different things, of not understand, like sometimes things just felt off, and
Mm-hmm.
now we have a word for it, microaggressions, or why is your tone of voice, it's a little different here,
Yeah.
thinking back to some of the things that my coaches would say, I'm just like, that would be kind of cringy these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was different and it was hard to navigate. And it's something that you grapple with, because on one hand, I felt like I was too black for the white folks and too light for the black folks. It was like I was so, again, it's like
Yeah.
my life is somewhere in the middle. I'm right here. I'm in the middle. And it's something that I've grappled with for my entire life, but now I have to do it at this predominantly white institution. But I think my saving grace was honestly that year that I transferred, because again, I went back to my old school a bunch of times that I care to admit. I met new people and new friends. It's like the minorities. It's like we find each other. It's like we find each other on campus somehow, some way. It's like we just gravitate. And
Yeah.
so when my team would go and travel, I would be like, bet I'm gonna go hang out with my friends that aren't athletes. We don't have to talk anything about sports. And yeah, I'm gonna kick it. So again, survival mode. I was in survival mode a lot of the time, and definitely deep in the books, because I wanted good grades. I was like, dang, well, my GPA gets to reset because I transferred. So I definitely want some good grades, and we'll kick it with my friends and made the most of it. It was tough.